Hey adventurers, today's going to be a little bit different. This is going to be like a discussion or a response video even in some ways. Not really super much responding because I'm just taking an idea and running with it more than anything else, more than actually responding point by point to a video or something like that. But I was inspired to do this after seeing a couple videos. Well, for one, I feel like I've seen a lot of videos recently about how booktube has destroyed reading and stuff like that. That's not really where this video is going for me, although that is part of it's just something that I've noticed seeing quite a bit recently. But also specifically, Tori from Tori Talks just recently put up a video about, does booktube still care about book reviews? And that was really what got me thinking about this topic. And basically I commented and said, okay, I'm gonna have to make a video about this because I have some thoughts, and they're very specific to me personally as a booktuber. But then also, Britton from Samoki Dude made a video titled "An Escapism" or "On Escapism," a discussion where he's just talking about escapism and what reading means to him and stuff like that. And so kind of I'm taking those two videos and kind of responding to both of them at the same time. I'll have both of them linked in the description box and stuff, and probably in the cards as well. So be sure to go check those videos out as well, just to have some more context for what I'm getting at. But kind of it's going to be a bit of a response, going to be a bit of discussion, a bit of a rambling video, I suspect. I will hopefully not take too terribly long to do it, but let's see what happens. As I was going, this question of why do I focus so much on reviewing books came up. And as I was looking, I have nearly 200 book reviews on the channel, and I have definitely done more book reviews than any other type of video on the channel. And so it's clearly very important to me. I've also been reviewing might near every book that I read, and that's been going on for, I think this is the third year I think that I've been doing reviewing every book that I read, with a few exceptions, and I'll talk about those in a couple minutes here. But basically, I do review might near everything that I read, and there's some reasons for that. Why do I focus so much on reviewing books though? It's essentially because that's what I feel like booktube is for. That's why I want to be on booktube, is I want to hear people's thoughts on books. And yeah, sometimes it is fun to watch some of these funner videos or some of these just breakdown videos or whatever that are just lists of things, or that are just making fun of this certain aspect or whatever it might be. But usually I try to add something to the discussion when I am making a video. I don't just want to make a video that really is pointless, that really is worthless. And so I feel like reviewing books is the easiest way and one of the most necessary ways to just add something to the discussion rather than just make something worthless. Tori in her channel, she talks about a lot of things, but one of the things that I noticed is she talks about how reviews really aren't doing that well on booktube anymore for whatever reason. In the past 5-7 years ago, reviews were the things that got all the reviews, and those were the popular videos to make and to watch, and that has kind of changed over the years. For me, I kind of have to ask myself, why am I still doing reviews if they aren't getting views for me? I'll get more to that in a second, but Tori brings up that a lot of times this is because people probably don't want to hear spoilers for the books that they review, and or the books that they're watching reviews of and stuff like that, and so they choose to not watch a review because if it contains spoilers, they would rather not know that. They would rather go read the book. I guess here's a good moment for me to include why I watch reviews and why I watch the reviews that I do. I watch a review after I've read the book, if it's, usually because I want to hear what other people have to say about it. But I will also watch reviews from specifically from reviewers that I know and trust their opinion and the way that they think and talk about books. I trust that to give me an accurate reflection of what I'm going to think. And sometimes that doesn't mean that I agree with them, but I understand the way that they see the stories, and so I can apply that so I can translate that and apply it to my own reading and know if I'm going to enjoy a book or not. And so that's the big thing. If I do go watch a review, it's one, either to support the booktuber for whatever reason, 2, because I'm interested in what they have to say about the book for whatever reason, whether that's before or after I've read it, or 3, because I am curious as to if I think that I should read that book. And oftentimes I do this with reviewers where I know that they know me well enough for me to be able to go watch their review and listen to what they're saying and think, oh, there's some things that are intriguing me about that, and then I'll ask them, is this one that I should read? And a lot of times they'll be able to give me an answer as well. And so that's kind of why I watch reviews. And I actually like reviews. There's a lot of really good reviewers and a lot of really different review styles on BookTube. So yeah, back to Tori talking about how reviews aren't doing great. I have noticed, and this is kind of what people have said since the beginning, reviews are like the backbone of BookTube. Without them, BookTube doesn't exist. But they also don't get a lot of views on that first day. In those first few hours, they're not super popular. And the ones that do really well usually take a while to do really well. They're ones that they're considered evergreen content, where people can go back to them at any point because they're never going to, maybe they won't get a huge pop immediately, but they will over time they will amass view after view after view after view, and it'll build up. And I can actually look at examples of that with my own channel. I've got, let me see, I'm curious. Most of my reviews currently end up somewhere between 40 and 80 views per video, and then over time they slowly start to amass more than that. Let me go to this though. My 2 most viewed videos on the channel, with the exception of the 2 shorts, one is a series review, or it's a what do I call them nowadays? It's a series. Well, it's a review and discussion and analysis. That's the other word that I use, and that's for the Wingfeather Saga, so it's a review. And then my second most viewed video is Once and Future King review. And then you go through here, and I've got The Man in the Iron Mask 20 years later, or 20 years after, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, Secret Garden, and stuff like that. And there's a lot of videos that most of my videos that end up getting higher view counts are the reviews. It just sometimes takes a little while for them to get up there. So I guess my point with that is basically, I don't really see that as being a problem that they don't get reviews, or seeing it as a problem that people don't watch my reviews, because I feel like they actually do. And yeah, and that's really all that I think have to say about that at this moment. I might get more into it as I continue through my few notes and points that I jotted down here to talk about. Moving on to Britton's channel, because I mentioned that Britton's channel, or Britton's video, also this is kind of a response to him as well. His video on escapism, he basically talks about wanting to challenge himself as a reader, and it's more than just escapism for him. It's a way to learn, it's a way to grow, it's a way to push himself out of his comfort zone, stuff like that. And I appreciate that mindset towards reading. And I've talked about it a couple times on the channel now, or maybe it's on other people's channels, but I've talked about why we chose the name An Erudite Adventure for the title, for the name of this channel. And it's essentially that we want to be learning, we want to be growing as readers, as people. And so when we are reading something, we want to study the literature, we want to study it and to understand it, to be able to, yes, enjoy it first and foremost, but we want to be able to break it down and understand a little bit more about why it's enjoyable to us. What are the storytelling aspects of it that are interesting to us? I've also found, as Britton points out, that if you're just reading for escapism, you're not going to branch out into new genres. You're not going to branch out and try new things that you think that you don't think you're going to like. And I found that I end up enjoying those things. When I branch out, the biggest one that I've done is sci-fi. When I branch out into sci-fi and start reading some of the other things, I find that in general I tend to really enjoy it. It's not always perfect, but I really enjoy it. And I want to bring that into this channel as well. That I want to bring in that adventure, that desire to be more erudite, to be more literate, to understand more about literature and storytelling. And I want to bring that into the channel, which is exactly why I review every book that I read, or pretty much every book that I read, because I want to bring in those expansions of thought, of those explorations of new genres, of new ideas that I am not used to, that aren't my comfort zone. And so that's kind of why I wanted to include include Britain's video in this response, in my video here, because I do think that it's important to understand why I do reviews, and why I feel like it's so important for me to continue doing reviews. So when I'm looking at reviews, when I'm writing a review, my style of review is very experiential based, I guess, if you want to say it that way. It's my experience with the story. It's not so much what is the story. Oftentimes I don't even include a synopsis of the story in my reviews. Sometimes I'll mention certain details or whatnot, but a lot of times I don't really include much of that, because that's not what is important to me as a reviewer, as a commentator, if you want to say it that way, of these books. I want to look at them and say, these are the things that resonated with me. Here's why I enjoyed it, or here's the things that I did not enjoy about this and why. And so that's really my style of review. I can break it down, I can analyze it a bit more and look individually at the different parts of the story, but I find that takes more time, and the videos end up becoming the same thing after the same thing after the same thing, and it takes away the interestingness, at least for me as a creator. It takes I don't find creating those videos as interesting or as fulfilling as just writing the review. And I do occasionally, I sometimes, especially with series, I'll go back to a series and do an analysis of them, and that can be rewarding, and it is usually when I do it. But I find that I prefer just this quicker, and when I say quicker, it's usually between 8 and 12 minutes is what ends up becoming my review length, and that is helpful to keep it flowing. But when I do an analysis, it's between 15 and 20 minutes, and that's a little bit longer. And I'm not talking about like attention spans or anything like that. I don't want to get into that discussion. But for me as a creator, I feel like that is a bigger chunk of time than I want people to spend engaging with one specific topic, one specific book on my channel. I want them to be able to get my thoughts in a reasonable amount of time and then move forward, because I know how busy people are. And obviously a lot of people are not busy, they're lazy, and that's why they scroll through things. But that's a whole different topic, and I don't want to get into that. But I don't want my videos to be a huge commitment for somebody to sit down and watch, and so I try and keep them in that 8 to 12 minute range, so that people can come get the videos get the thoughts that I have for them, and then move on. And I know that's probably bad for my channel. The YouTube algorithm encourages people to stay on the platform as long as they can, and so if my videos aren't doing that, if I'm not doing that with my videos, it's damaging my platform, my channel. But I don't care, because that's not what I'm doing the channel for, if that makes sense. So that's kind of my style of review, is just, here are my thoughts, here are some of the things that I was thinking about as I read it, here are some of the things that I remember that stood out to me as I was reading it, what it was that I enjoyed, why I enjoyed this one, what the vibes were for me, I guess. And that's basically with that one. And then I've kind of already talked about why I like doing reviews, and it's essentially that it allows me to directly talk to the audience about the story that I was just consuming. At this point, I'm 5 months behind by the time I get to a review, but I'm able to tell these stories, talk about these stories more directly, be able to directly engage with the audience, even if the audience doesn't, if there's nobody that watches the video or comments on the video, I'm still able to directly engage with them in a different way. I'm able to process my thoughts, and which is exactly why I wanted to create a booktube channel, was to, yes, have discussions with other people, but it was more of to process my own thoughts about these stories that I'm reading, and kind of also a backlog, a record of what it is that I've read. But that's another part of it, is to have that record of, here are the things that I read, here were my thoughts at the time of reading them, or 5 months after I read them, or whatever it might be, but relatively close in time to when I read the story, so that I can go back and I can compare my thoughts of Rhythm of War with my original read of Rhythm of War and find out what's changed since then, etc. And it's not just, that was just an example because I know that I'm coming up on a review of Rhythm of War fairly soon here. So anyways, that's kind of my thoughts on that part as well. What my focus is for reviews now and how that's changed since the beginning. I talked a little bit already about how there's my review style is very much experiential versus analytical. And when I first started the channel and when we first started doing reviews, we were doing very much like an analysis of the book, where we would take these points, how did these things measure up, what how did they do on a scale of 1 to 10 or whatever you want to say, in these different areas and these different parts, and did it overall accumulate into a good story. And that's fine, that's great, that's a great way to analyze them. But I like how my reviews have changed to this more experiential. Here's my experience with this book. Did I enjoy the experience? Yeah, maybe it wasn't the best book, but a 4-star book can be my favorite book of the year, even though I have many other 5-star books or whatever. I can enjoy a certain book more than I enjoy another book due to, yeah, maybe it's not technically better, but I enjoyed it more, and here's why. And so I'm able to, I've changed from that very analytical, which is very objective. I've changed from a very objective approach to my reviews to a more subjective approach, because I feel like the more subjective approach within my area of the community is more beneficial to why people are coming to watch my videos. Is they want to hear my opinions on these books. They don't want to hear an analysis. They don't want to hear this is objectively good, this is objectively bad. They don't want to hear that. Plus, that can a lot more easily get into spoiler territory, and which is what I don't care about. I don't need to talk spoilers for most stories that I read. And again, I already also talked a little bit about this, why the view count doesn't matter to me, why I still do reviews even if they don't do great. Well, for one, on my channel, they actually do about as good as the other videos. So I have Mondays is reviews, Thursdays is another type of video, whether it's a book tag, whether it's a discussion video like this one is, whether it's a Poetry Thursday, whatever it might be. My Thursday videos are something different, and oftentimes within about 2 weeks, the views on my reviews are very within about 10 of what I was getting on my Thursday video. And so it doesn't change that. It balances itself out pretty quickly with what videos end up having more views. And usually on things like wrap-ups or TBRs or things like that, I will usually get a slightly higher amount of views, but I don't care. And because again, that's not why I'm doing the reviews. I'm doing the reviews to get my own thoughts out onto paper, essentially out to where I can refer back to them when I need to, or other people can engage with them as they want to, whatever might be the case. Essentially, I came here to talk about books. I didn't come here to get views, although both of those things are beneficial and nice, and it's nice when you do get views. I came here to talk about the books themselves. And so I want to talk about the books. I don't want to worry so much about the reviews or about the views. But then I also keep doing reviews because I enjoy it. I genuinely enjoy it. I think that it is, in a lot of ways, it's been good for me. As a reader, it's been good for me because it helps me to process what I was reading and be able to remember better what I had read, all that kind of stuff. Making sure that I'm paying attention while I'm reading so that I can then do a review from it, especially when I'm 5 months away and don't end up filming a review for 5 months or whatever it might be. It's very beneficial for me to be mindful of the fact, I do need to do a review of this book, and I'm going to do a review of this book. And as such, I'm going to make sure that I'm paying attention so that I can have something to say when it comes time to say something about the book. So it's been very good for me as a reader to pay more attention. Also, as a reviewer, I've become a better reviewer. I've become a better presenter due to reviewing every book that I read and forcing myself to find something to say about every book that I read. And I'll go back to that in a second. I'll go back to my decision of which books to review and which not to review. But essentially, being a reviewer and forcing myself to review every book, it just improves my ability to review the books, which is only beneficial. There is no downside to reviewing every book, other than that it takes a lot of time. But and if you read more than 4 books a month, but there's only 4 weeks per month, 4 Mondays, then you will get behind and get behind and get behind. But I don't see that as a problem. I see that as wonderful. I have more work to do, and so yeah, I'm okay with I don't have any downsides for myself of doing reviews. But then also as a person, it's given me some accountability to some degree, where I'm forcing myself to review each book. It's helped me to pay closer attention. It's helped me in a lot of just different ways, just as a person, to be more committed, to be more consistent, to pay attention, to remember. There's just a lot of things that reviewing these books has genuinely helped me, and so I want to continue reviewing the books. Now I will quickly, in fact this is the last note that I put, is I review almost every book I read, and so I'll talk briefly about why that's the case and what it is that I am intending for when I do that. So basically, I do read almost every book, or I do review almost every book that I read, and essentially that is because, well, one, I made a commitment to, I think it was in 2023, that I said I want to review every book that I read because it will help and it'll provide me with constant content. And so there is that, absolutely. But there are a few books that I don't review. DNFs, obviously. I'm not going to review a book that I didn't finish. That's not fair to anything. I will talk about it in my wrap up, because that's, especially if it was sent to me, I want other people to have an opportunity, and I want the authors who sent their books to me to have an opportunity to hear my thoughts, because they specifically were kind enough to send me their book or request that I read their book or whatever. And so that's my ability to give back to them, is to say, here's this book, it didn't work for me, here's why. If they can take that feedback and apply it and grow as writers, that's great. If it's something where this just isn't a book for me, but somebody else who likes these things or who doesn't mind these things, you might enjoy it more, that's great. And hopefully I can help the audience in one way or the other. I can help the author reach a larger audience, whether that's by improving their own skill as writers, or by having other people see this book and say, hey, I'm intrigued by that, I want to read it. And so I will mention DNFs, but I'm not going to review them. And so that's obviously some books that why I don't review every book that I read. There's also a lot of, if I read something that's specifically very nonfiction or very like life help or whatever it might be like that, I am not in the correct community on BookTube to talk about that type of content. And I honestly, most of the times when I do, it's something where I don't care if in fact I would prefer that people aren't constantly thinking of my views on things when they're listening to my videos. I would prefer them to look at my content for what it's worth. I would prefer for them to approach my videos and say, this person has a viewpoint towards storytelling, and that is why I'm here. Not that these other things aren't good, but I don't want to talk about those things if I'm not going to make that a major portion of my channel. Whereas the books that I do read, the stories that I read, this is a story focused channel, not an information focused channel. And so I want to promote the stories. I don't care about promoting the information so much. If people have questions, sure, they can ask me questions. I don't care. But that is a completely different niche even from what I'm talking about. It's I'm sure there is a part of the BookTube community that talks about nonfiction and is very information focused like that. I'm just not part of that. I am a story reader. I am talking about the stories, and that's what I want to talk about. That's what I want to have my channel focused on, is storytelling. And so that's essentially why I don't review every book that I read, even though I end up reviewing the vast majority. What else? Anything else that I need to talk about? I think that's really an overview. It's probably a longer video than it needs to be, but that's a fairly decent overview of my thoughts and on this topic. I do appreciate Tori's video and Britton's video for essentially starting this discussion in my own mind, and I wanted to get it out sooner rather than later before their videos get lost in the backlog. And yeah, so it is about a week and a half after those videos came out, I think, but that by the time you're seeing this, if you're watching it on release day and all that. But I appreciate them. I wanted to respond and put out my own thoughts, because I do think that it's necessary to keep reviewing books, and I really hope that other channels get back into the book reviewing level, back into that side of BookTube, because I feel like it's a very important piece of BookTube, and it's something that if we stop doing, BookTube is going to fall apart. It's not going to last anymore, because that's what BookTube was founded on. That's its strength. That's why people talk books. That's why most people came to BookTube, is because I wanted to hear people's thoughts about a certain book. So anyways, that is my thoughts. I will stop talking. I will stop rambling now. Thank you guys for watching an Erudite adventure. If you like what you're seeing from an Erudite adventure, please like, comment, and subscribe. We post videos every Monday and Thursday, and our social media is linked in the description down below. We'll see you guys again soon. Stay well.